Premature ejaculation holistic healing. Premature ejaculation. I thought this was the worst problem in the world. It's awful. You just finish fast and that's it. If you become intelligent, charismatic, and athletic, it doesn't help. It even makes things worse, because if you have those qualities, people will have higher expectations of you. A woman will be quite disappointed if she dreams of a smart, handsome, talented, and successful man, and for weeks and even months she imagines how passionately she will do it with him, and in the end, it turns out that this handsome man ended in a flash, depriving both of the pleasure of showing their attraction to each other in the most desirable and natural way. Another stupidity is that with each relationship, with each sex, the man accumulates more and more naughty emotional baggage, which unfortunately is not easy to unload. Seriously, what nastier problem can a healthy man have? How will you satisfy the love of your life? Will she want to marry you, and if so, won't she end up fed up with poor sex and leave you? Heavy thoughts. In this book I will say a lot about my history with this disease. Is there a happy ending? I dare say there is. I wish you a pleasant listening. Chapter 1. A little more about me, and my case. To understand the basis of my opinion and why I wrote this book, I will briefly tell you my biography. My name is Kalin Jalev. I was born in Bulgaria in Dulovo on the 17th of April 1992. At the age of 13 I started breakdancing. To this day it is my favorite activity and the biggest passion in my life. I love breakdancing. My dance career includes 12 first places in Bulgaria in team breakdance battles, several first to third place titles in 1v1 battles, several top 3 finishes in all-style battles. And perhaps my greatest achievement, my developed dance product, a children's breakdance birthday party which I have done just over 1,000 times to date. I now work as a breakdancing coach and children's party host, as a job for extra income. My other specialty, lifestyle and profession is yoga. I started yoga at the age of 20 for health reasons. I suffered from insomnia, premature ejaculation, gas, severe back pain, right shoulder pain, knee pain, and mood swings. My condition did not improve after my visits to various medical specialists or improved due to additional side effects. This prompted me to look for a harmonious way to deal with my deteriorating health. Yoga did a good job. The style I practice most often is Kundalini Yoga, the science of incorporating a person's sleeping mental and physical potential. My teacher's name is Nikola Zamiyarov, who is one of the most important people in my life. Over time, I became yoga in my profession. I am currently a certified yoga teacher, teaching 1 to 2 times a week for pleasure and extra income. I have a master's degree in veterinary medicine, and at the time of writing I am working at the National Center for Infectious and Parasitic Diseases as a laboratory veterinarian. The work is related to the production of anti-snake, anti-tetanus and anti-diphtheria serum. From this background come my claims not to be considered absolutely ignorant. In fact, I like to think about every influence on the body through the prism of physiology and pathophysiology. I think the science of yoga and the science of physiology help each other a lot. Exercise has a huge potential to affect our homeostasis, the basic process in our body related to maintaining a constant body environment. In addition to veterinary medicine, I have a degree in massage, a biology teacher, and a physical education and sports teacher, and of those listed, I work only as a masseur, mainly massaging my friends from break dance circles. However, I do not claim that this book is a medical work. I do not write it from my position as a doctor. I do not even recommend what I do or have done, and I strongly encourage no one to try anything for self-help without consulting a specialist. Blind belief in various methods of self-treatment and their testing without the advice of a specialist can be extremely harmful to humans. Chapter 2. My sex life. From the very beginning of my sex life, I had a disturbance. I have always been quite anxious at the thought of sex. Very often I couldn't get an erection out of embarrassment, but that was the least of my problems. As early as the age of 16, I realized that I was probably suffering from premature ejaculation. At 17, I was already convinced of it. No matter what I did, I couldn't last more than 15 to 20 seconds. With every sex I was hurting myself more and more. The fact that I was good at dancing gave me a lot of popularity with girls, and that even made the problem bigger. I was taking it as if I was raising expectations of myself. I had to defend the fact that I was presenting myself as an athletic and artistic person by also presenting myself as a good lover, but alas, I just couldn't. My body just didn't have the capacity to withstand the pleasure. It all ended instantly. My endurance did not change at all. Many men say that if they come once before sex, then they last a very long time. Well, it wasn't like that with me. There was no difference in duration between the first, second, and even third sex. It didn't matter if I was wearing a condom or not, whether I drank alcohol or not, whether I exercised regularly or rested, or if I thought about other things during sex. Even if I eat healthy or junk. There was no improvement if I abstained from porn, as well as if I trained my pelvic muscles. It was very rare to last about 10 to 20 minutes of sex, but with a semi-erect penis, and in these cases I did not even reach ejaculation. Again, a rather pathetic situation. In general, my sexual intercourse lasted 10 seconds, and once in 50 sex was longer, but with a weak erection, and I did not have an orgasm. What made the situation even more complicated to unravel was the fact that when I was examined by a urologist, everything was fine. I appeared to be a healthy man. I remember at the end of the exam, the doctor prescribed me a drug that was in the barbiturate group and told me to take it for a month and not have sex or think about sex during that time. Tough job for a 17-year-old. Anyway, I did my best to follow his order. After 30 days, it was time to test the result of the treatment. The effect was definitely there. I lasted somewhere around 10 to 20 times longer, which is about 2 to 3 minutes. One might think, not bad at all. The result beats it. Well, that's only one side of the coin. The other, however, was a broad list of side effects. One was beastly drowsiness. I was someone with a very serious problem falling asleep, but while taking this medication I fell asleep during class at school. I could sleep for 14 hours a day and still want to sleep. The other effect was a loss of motivation and a softening of emotions. It was like nothing was impressing me. It was the same during sex. I felt no pleasure and couldn't feel a deeper connection with my partner. The third and most fatal side effect for me was the loss of muscle strength. When I was break dancing, I noticed that moves that were not normally difficult for me were proving to be very difficult. I could not easily lift my body and express myself through dance with ease. After the 30-day period, I went to the urologist again. I told him about the unpleasant side effects and asked him if he could prescribe me another medicine. I remember how he frowned and told me that there were other medicines, but I was a young boy and if I started taking them now, I won't be healthy when I reach his age. He then told me to continue on the same medicine, but at twice the lower dose, and prescribed herbal supplements for this treatment. This treatment had poorer results than the first, and the weakness in my muscles was still there. All this made me stop the therapy. The surgical intervention. Then I began to wonder if premature ejaculation in me was not from a slightly different shape of my penis. I noticed that my head was evenly tilted down when I had an erection. It turned out that I have a short gem, a condition that modern medicine calls frenulum breve. This is a shortening of the bridle that connects the foreskin to the glans penis. For this problem I visited another urologist, who was said to be one of the best urologists in the whole country. He really turned out to be an amazing person and a great professional. He wasted no time and even surprised me by having my operation immediately after the first examination. I literally went for an examination. He looked at me from below and told me, "Your head is tilted down, and it shouldn't be like that. You need surgery. Do you want to do it now?" Quite a scary moment of my life, but I said to myself, now or never. Of course, I asked him if this would help me with the problem of rapid ejaculation, to which he replied, "It will disappear." It made me feel so happy. I could feel the rush of serotonin and endorphins in my brain. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. In the end, it turned out that there was no effect on premature ejaculation. And after the operation I continued to finish quickly without even a second difference. But the operation was certainly not superfluous. My penis took on a normal shape and even lengthened slightly. It is also a prevention of serious sexual trauma, because the short bead could break during sex. After the failure of the operation, my hopes were dashed. I felt that I had done infinitely many things and all of them had failed. I found surgery to be the most serious measure I could take, and there was no difference even with it. I despaired once again. I remember because of premature ejaculation I became interested in a healthy lifestyle and especially in nutrition. I read so much about the body and nutrition in the hopes of helping myself that when they ran a biology test in 11th grade and without even reading the lessons, I got the highest grade in the class. I had decided that sugar was the cause of everything and I did my experiment not to eat anything with sugar. For 3 months I did not lick the jam, nor the dough, because they put sugar in it. The result on my skin, mood and muscles was very good, but my illnesses were not affected. Of course, that wasn't the only diet I tried. Some of the other diets are vegetarianism, intermittent fasting, dry fasting once a week, water fasting once a week, veganism, drinking a lot of water. Of all those, vegetarianism, veganism, and drinking 4 to 5 liters of water a day showed very little effect for me. They added 20 seconds to 1 minute to sexual intercourse. I didn't felt in good mental and physical condition from veganism. I gave up the increased water intake because of going to the toilet 15 times a day. And I am a vegetarian to this day. The vegetarian diet fits my beliefs very well, as does dancing. Last year in high school, I decided to go to a psychiatrist. I read on the internet that visits to a psychiatrist help and decided to give it a try. The doctor showed great understanding of my case. And he really wanted to help me. He gave me some advice, but he knew it wouldn't help me last longer. He spoke with great understanding as if he were suffering from premature ejaculation. In the end, the conversation even boiled down to what kind of alcohol is best to drink before sex. I have nothing to add about psychotherapy, I just wanted to say that I tried this. It was absolutely unsuccessful. The only positive was that I realized that psychotherapy did not work for this problem. However, my goal was really to last longer, not to sink into the psychological aspect of anxiety from sexual performance. After all these failures, I decided that there was nothing to do. And although deep down I still believed I would be able to do something, I fell into a hole. After graduating from high school, I moved to Sofia, the capital and largest city in Bulgaria, to study veterinary medicine. Meditation. I had a deep inner feeling that my sex problem might be on a spiritual level. I felt my mind very scattered and dirty. These thoughts pushed me to meditate. From a purely logical point of view, once my organs are healthy, the problem should be psychological, and what better way to purify my psyche from meditation? At that time I was already practicing yoga regularly and felt the effect on calming the mind. All I had to do was increase my meditation techniques. Fortunately for me, then my teacher released a DVD with his Kundalini yoga program for mental and emotional balancing. Without hesitation I bought the disc and started the same day. The program lasts 1 hour and 13 minutes and includes 90% of techniques from the last stages of yoga. It is unique. I made it over 90 days without a pass. This period turned my life upside down, opened my mind so much, I did not suspect that I have such psychological and spiritual potential. By the 3rd month of practice, I was unable to get angry about anything. To this day, I think this was the most meaningful period of my life. I was in constant contact with the universe and its intelligence. The things I experienced cannot be described in words. They are on a completely different level, which cannot be written in 2 dimensions on a piece of paper or retold to a friend. One thing I can say for sure, my mind was very stable at the time. Alas, despite the enormous internal transformation, it had no effect on premature ejaculation. I just couldn't believe it. And although I was so calm at the time that I didn't care that I was finishing fast, I decided to keep looking for treatment. The strange thing was that I had a perfect mood and felt harmonious, but my sickness stood. Although my insomnia was a little better, I was still ejaculating quickly and experiencing digestive problems. I have to admit something here, even now that I am no longer suffering from my illnesses, I do not feel as happy as I was when I meditated so much. The serious pills. I could feel myself growing up, and my fear of exposing myself to bed was growing. This prompted me to use the familiar sexual stimulants. I got them from the black market. I ordered them from a dubious site from which my owners sent them through a courier company described as a document. In an overstuffed envelope with folded papers was hidden a blister of Viagra, or Cialis or Duloxetine. I also bought combined pills Duloxetine and Viagra in one. I was shaking with pills like a pig. They definitely helped me last longer. If I took only Viagra or Cialis, I could not stand it anymore, but from Duloxetine, antidepressant, the time was extended from 2 to 3 to 100 times longer. I had the best result from combining Duloxetine and Viagra, but I did it extremely rarely because I felt I was overdoing it. I stuck to my system with a quarter of Duloxetine plus 2 beers. Using these drugs I realized that this cannot last forever. I remembered the words of the urologist, who told me that if I used such drugs while I was still young, I would worsen my health prematurely. I used these drugs from 20 to 24 years of age. In the end, I decided that the side effects were not worth it and were not a good solution in the long run. The antidepressant made me feel inadequate and I couldn't get into sex, I lost all aggression, even healthy, and if I used them for several days in a row I was drowsy. If I took a higher dose, I had a hard time keeping my focus during a conversation, which made me an inferior partner. In addition to intimate relationships, the pill interfered after that. Usually, the effect of sex pills is almost 1 day, for the same period are the side effects. I had taken a combination of Viagra and duloxetine once in the evening and went to university the next day for lectures. Entering the building, I began to see everything in shades of green. It was super scary. It turned out that this is a side effect of these drugs. At the age of 24, I experienced my greatest sexual humiliation, and I had even taken these pills. I was told quite clearly that this sex is nothing, that others are many times better than me. In fact, the actual statement was much harsher and more flourishing. It was my biggest nightmare. I felt that I had nowhere to fall below that. It was as if I was lying on the bottom of the bottom. Then I decided it was time to stop by all means to get around the problem, through medication, and put a lot of effort into getting really healthy. From a person who finishes fast, to become a person capable of enduring at least normal time. I already had 4 years of experience with Kundalini Yoga and I had built my daily practice as a habit. I told myself that I would go somewhere without a roommate so that I could spend hours in yoga practice without considering anyone. And my whole practice, there will be only one goal, to start enduring more. From then on, I had a very clear and very ambitious goal. Looking for treatment in 3 indicators. Number 1. To be effective. For example, to be able to endure medium-term sex from 3 to 15 minutes. Number 2. The effect should not be at the expense of severe and harmful side effects for me. Number 3. The effect should be constant and without great variability. To make sure I don't finish fast. To make this happen, I started to follow 4 more very important principles. First, if necessary, I will sacrifice time in which I can earn money, but I will not miss practice. Second, I will practice even at the expense of becoming a weak student. If I have to choose, I will always prefer to practice and look for a solution to premature ejaculation rather than put effort into my professional development. Third, I will try anything, no matter how ridiculous or unflattering it may seem to others. And fourth, this process will continue until I find a solution to premature ejaculation and will continue after that, albeit to a lesser degree. In short, I went all in. I used the little money I had collected and moved out of the dorm into housing. This way, even though it was more expensive for me, I had a room by myself where I could spend hours every day in yoga practice without having to conform to anyone. From that point on, with albeit small steps, my journey to self-healing began. Mula Bandha. Since the only thing I had read in the yoga books as being very effective for sexual control was Mula Bandha, key of the pelvis, I decided to harness all my potential to become a Mula Bandha master. I told myself that if I spent hours a day learning exactly how to contract my pelvic muscles to pull the energy up, sooner or later I would succeed. The first problem I encountered was that every book that had a detailed description of Mula Bandha at all said different things. For example, some sources said to tighten and lift up the area between the anus and the testicles, others said to tighten the anal sphincter and with it lift up the whole pelvic floor, and still others described it as something that happens as a reflex when you are in a certain asana, posture, and contract the gluteal muscles. In my teacher's classes, we practiced even more different variations of pelvic key briefly. My solution was to try all the options and test which worked best. I was so pumped to find a solution that I spent about 2 hours a day learning to shorten certain pelvic muscles and exploring how they affected me. I tried an awful lot of variations over the course of 3 to 4 months. The results were quite interesting. Sometimes I had the amazing effect of absolute ejaculation control, which on a mental level was accompanied by a slight indifference to sex. This had to do with the transformation of sexual energy into a higher energy. This is actually the purpose of the Mula Bandha. The results made me very happy, but they were inconsistent. In most cases there was absolutely no effect. When there was no effect, I thought it was because I had not performed the Mula Bandha in the same way, but trying to do the exercise again and again and having it performed in the same way and with no result just discouraged me. The same technique gave effect once in 4 to 5 practices. And this continued as a trend for 4 months in a row. I decided that lasting long once in 5 sexes and coming quickly 4 times was not a good result and wanted to try something else. If you want to discuss with me Mula Bandha or any of the other holistic methods in this book, you can use the link in the description to my gig on Fiverr.com. Yoga practice. I have been going to yoga with my teacher for 4 years now, but out of shame I never admitted to him that I was looking for a yoga practice that would help me endure more during sex. But after it didn't work out with Mula Bandha, I decided, despite my great shame, to ask him. He started by saying that many men suffer from sexual weakness, and before showing me the exercises, he told me the two coolest things about sexual energy. One is that one should never ejaculate in the morning because it drains a man violently, and the other is that for the same reason, one should not ejaculate more than twice in one day. Then add, once, but continuously. The exercises he showed proved to be super simple. However, they have several counterindications. They should not be performed by people with severe spinal disabilities, people with heart disorders, or those suffering from thyroid disease. You must be wondering about the effect. It's brutal. They prolong stamina and strengthen erections brutally. One feels like one has never had sexual problems. The good thing is that the exercises are only 3 and take a maximum of 15 minutes. I have uploaded them to my YouTube channel under the title, Quick Yoga for PE and ED. This is actually the first program I've gotten positive feedback on. I'm glad I was able to help a few men feel like real powerful lovers with it. Unfortunately though, this program has the same drawback as the Mula Bandha. They don't always work, and I don't understand what it is due to. At least that's how they work for me. I used this practice for quite some time with very good but inconsistent results. I stopped practicing it because I figured I would replace it with something that gives an effect every time. One of my yoga students, however, finds it to be his favorite yoga practice. He has been practicing it 5 times a week for 3 years in a row now, and even shared his video testimony on my YouTube channel. Overall, he is more than satisfied. In the description you will find a link to the practice as well as the testimony of my subscriber. And of course, if you want to discuss it, you can contact me through the link on my gig on Fiverr.com. Uddiyana Bandha. I was a final year veterinary student and I walked over to the Xerox machine to print out some material to study. While waiting in line, I saw a small brown book on the shelf titled, Who Created the Science of Yoga, written by Nicola Koloferev. The author had described how he started doing the 5 Tibetan rituals complex and how he deliberately didn't do the additional 6th ritual. He wondered, what's in it for me? And the 6th ritual is essentially the Uddiyana Bandha key of the abdomen. It is exhaling to the fullest, then holding the breath and swallowing the belly to the spine and chest. Once Nicola Koloferev started practicing the 6th ritual, an amazing effect on his erection and ability to hold it for an extremely long time has occurred. He says that he used to get into situations where it lasted for 2 hours, and the strange thing is that he was 60 years old then. Of course, after reading this I started with the exercise immediately. I should mention here that Uddiyana Bandha is a dangerous exercise and requires a long experience with yoga. When I started doing it I had already been practicing yoga daily for 5 years. Wanting to perform the switch properly, I overdid the attempts and as a result developed a 3-day headache which I could not reduce even with 4-analgin. After this subsided, I continued to study Uddiyana at a more modest pace. The results were wonderful. There was no other exercise that increased my physical stamina and boosted my mood as much as the belly key. There was an effect on sex too, but again it was inconsistent. Later, I found out about the Bandha Traya combination, which is a short Kriya yoga complex in which the 3 bandhas Jaladhara on the throat, Uddiyana on the abdomen, and Mula on the pelvis are sequentially contracted. A unique complex that sometimes gave me absolute control over ejaculation. In addition, Bandha Traya makes you feel as if you have sipped from a magic elixir of vitality and spirituality. But unfortunately, even though I felt very good from the complex, the inconsistent results on premature ejaculation still made me feel depressed. My fear of sex was still very great. It was as if I had to flip a coin before sex to see whether or not exercise would help me this time. My explanation for the inconsistent results of yoga exercises is that all these techniques are related to raising the energy called apana vayu up the central psychoenergetic stream, sushumna, located along the spine. If I had enough energy to lift, they worked, but if I had insufficient stored energy at the time, the exercises did not work. Another possible cause could have been a problem in the sushumna, a blockage that prevented the lifting of energy. Other reasons may have been that I was practicing at different times of the day, during different time ranges, the energy was moving differently, and I was practicing at inappropriate times. The energy transforming practices of yoga remain a complete mystery to me. No matter how many yoga books I had read and no matter how much knowledge and experience I had accumulated, practicing them I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. I didn't feel in control. I wanted a practice that I could direct logically and easily track its outcome. Just as I know when I eat, how much is enough, and which food is good for me, I wanted to feel which exercise was helping me and exactly how much I needed to do to last longer. Shirshasana, Sarvangasana, Paschimottanasana, Uttanasana, Mahamudra, Baddha Konasana, Ardha Matsyendrasana, Hanumanasana, Urdhva Dhanurasana, Dvipada Viparita Dandasana. These are sequentially arranged names of asanas, poses of Hatha Yoga. This sequence is inspired by BKS Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga, a wonderful work on yoga. In the last in the chapter, the author gives sequences of postures for various ailments. The asanas I have listed above are given for impotence. The original list is longer because it includes a few more postures that I am not flexible enough to practice, Mula Bandhasana, Kandasana, and others. This is the first thing that pretty much covered the metrics I had: be effective, no bad side effects, no variability in results. Doing them was the first time I felt a real effect that was under my control. I knew how to induce it and what the outcome would be. The practice was very simple, at least for me. I held each pose for 10 seconds, did it every morning on an empty stomach. That's it. To date, however, I do not use this program as my personal practice. The reason is the first of the metrics I was aiming for, efficiency. The results it was giving me were insufficient to satisfy a woman. I certainly lasted longer, about 2 minutes in fast sex, besides I developed my control a lot in slow sex. If I did it slow, I could last 5 to 8 minutes with ease. Because I had to control myself too much and be careful not to reach the point of no return, I didn't stop there with my journey. I wanted something that would help me endure, but at the same time happen very naturally. I wanted to both be durable and be able to indulge my partner in a more uninhibited way. In my YouTube videos I hardly mention this practice because of the headstand. Just not everyone can learn this pose. If you want to discuss this amazing practice with me, you can use the link to my gig on Fiverr.com. Paidalajin. In 2016, for some reason, the Bulgarian internet space was very buzzing with videos about the ancient Chinese techniques of Paida and Lajin. In Bulgaria we have a lot of jokes related to the fact that fighting educates and the technique of Paida is literally self-healing by slapping. On Facebook, videos about Paidalajin were shared by people who actually have an interest in the practice, as well as by people who mock and ridicule. Most shared, however, was the photo on the cover of a Bulgarian newspaper with the blatant headline, "The Secret of the Slapping Cure." Tens of thousands of Bulgarians shared this meme, accompanied by a crying with laughter emoji. To this day, my friends share that photo with me because they know I practice. When I first found out about Paidalajin, I thought it was a great simplicity. Some people fight so hard they get bruises. I figured it was just more new age bullshit. After another time when the video of Master Hongqi Shao's interview came up on my wall, I decided to watch the whole thing. The master seemed to be a very humble person who didn't act like just another spiritual guru. I said, okay, I guess it's dumb but I'll give it a try. I tapped myself for about 3 minutes on my right shoulder, which was extremely sore at the time. I felt absolutely no result and told myself that at least I tried. The next day I decided to try a lodgin with 2 chairs next to the doorframe. I was stupid enough to think I should only stretch one leg. My whole body went numb and I couldn't walk for a few minutes. However, I noticed that the stretching made my body softer and in no way injured me, despite the great numbness. After these 2 practices, I decided that Paidalajin was ineffective. But a month later, I was in the bookstore and passing by Hongqi Shao's book, Self-Healing with Paidalajin. I felt the urge to buy it and learn a little more. I read it in one breath. I was very impressed by the simplicity of the method. And I decided to do some practices again, but this time more seriously. I improvised a lodgin bench in my new place and stretched for 15 minutes per leg, but this time tight with a belt. I was very sore during the practice and after waiting for the blood to come back to my limbs I didn't feel anything special. Actually it felt pretty normal. But in the evening something unique happened for me. I fell asleep instantly and experienced as deep a sleep as I can't remember ever experiencing. In the morning I realized that for the first time in 10 years I slept like a normal person. From that moment on, I knew I would not stop practicing lodgin. I just told myself that since I had experienced such a great result from lodgin, the Paidas shouldn't be scum either, but I should probably do a longer practice. Then I took advantage of the 1 day's rent I had left on my old place, a loft room downtown. I went there and did 30 minutes of Paida on my left arm and 30 minutes on my right arm. I spanked very hard. At first a few red dots came out, after a few minutes it turned into a purple spot covering the whole crease, the joint spots got more and more darker. By the 20th minute, a black color 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter formed in the center of the purple spot. I was very scared, but I remembered how convincingly the book said this was a beneficial process and kept slapping. After the 25th minute, the black color began to fade and go to purple again. After that session, I felt so good, like something greasy and heavy fell off my heart. I felt a surge of cheerfulness, enthusiasm, and courage. And in the evening, I had normal sex for the first time in my life. I was so happy. I had a great libido. I felt I could just last a long time without even trying. I could just do it. My body was tight. I understood what men felt without this disease. It was a turning point in my life. I found what I was looking for since I was 16. Kudos to Master Hongqi Shao, the greatest healer in the world. His work solved the biggest problem in my life. Take a bow, 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 bow also to all who have discovered and preserved these techniques all these years. God bless them, thank God. What is Paidalajin? Paidalajin is a combination of two techniques: Paida, slapping, and Lajin, stretching. Paida, it is something unique and magical. At first glance it is a very ordinary slapping on the skin. It looks barbaric and cruel, but essentially it is a simple way to unblock blocked energy, to speed it up and increase it in certain parts of the body. Paida propels both invisible chi or prana energy and visible energy by improving blood and lymph circulation. Its healing potential can be fully compared to that of acupuncture, with the difference that Paida is an extremely simple technique that can be learned in 1 minute. Whoever masters the Paida technique can realize the same healing effect as professional acupuncturists who have studied for years how to unblock energy blockages. How is it performed? You spank on a spot of skin for 5 minutes to 2 hours. If it is on the legs and arms, you can spank very hard. If it is on the torso, you have to spank more gently. That's it. There is a whole book which is written by Master Hong Shao which contains all the necessary information about Paidalajin. It's called, Heal Yourself Naturally Now with the established Chinese technique of Paidalajin. This is the book that changed my life for the much better. In my opinion, this is a book that every Paidalajin enthusiast must read. This is exactly why I will not describe in much detail about Paidalajin in this book. I cannot explain Paidalajin better than it is described in Master Shao's book. A deep bow to this amazing man. I love him with all my heart. His book is the fruit of a wonderful journey of his in search of the secrets of traditional Chinese medicine. Often a journey, learning from various masters of traditional Chinese medicine, he mastered a multitude of techniques such as acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractic, suction cup therapy, qigong, and rediscovered the amazing potential of Paida and Lajing. He clearly differentiates these two techniques from all others because they can be learned by everyone and thus everyone has a chance to become their own doctor. By mastering these two simple techniques, one can take the maintenance of his health into his own hands and not rely on specialists. Yet let me briefly explain how Paida is practiced and what is its purpose. The aim is to unblock the 12 main energy channels of our body. According to their location, the 4 main areas for Paida are identified. They are wrists, elbows, knees, and feet. All 12 channels pass through these areas. When we clap on them, we release our energy grid from many blockages. Once we pass the 4 main zones, we can proceed to Paida the rest of the body. Very good areas to treat after the main ones are the shoulders and armpits, groin and head. Once we are done with these areas as well, we can move on to spanking all the other parts of our body. When we complete the piecing of absolutely all parts of the skin, we have done a so-called carpet bombing. We have covered all parts of the body with the Paida and with it unblocked you to a great extent. An important aspect of Paida is Sha, toxic waste in the blood and body fluids that appears under the skin during Paida. It appears in pink, blood red, purple, purplish black, black tones, etc. When the amount of Sha reaches its peak, with continued application of Paida, the Sha will gradually begin to fade. Lumps, red bumps, white powder on the skin are also different forms of Sha. For more details, please read Hongqi Shao's original book. I will leave a link to it in the description. Link to free uploaded ebook and link to the whole physical book. Paida can also be practiced symptomatically. For example, clapping on the shoulder when we have shoulder pain or clapping on the neck when we have neck pain. The same is true for internal organ problems. For example, for problems with the genitourinary system, it is very good to clap on the inner part of the legs. For breathing and heart problems, a good area is the inner part of the arms. For stomach problems, a good area is the Zushanli point. For gall-bladder problems, the side of the torso, etc. The areas that help me the most for premature ejaculation are all sides of the knees, the inside of the elbow, the whole inside of the legs, the entire inner, not hairy, part of the arms, the inside and back of the calves, The area between the navel and pubic bone. The outer and inner parts of the foot. The brief description of Paidalajin in this book will not be enough to answer all your questions. Please take the time to read Master Shao's book and follow my YouTube channel, Cured by Gibbon, and ask your questions there. Lajin, it means to stretch the limbs and joints in the body by very simple methods to put the bones in place and make the ligaments flexible and allow the energy to flow smoothly through the meridians. The most effective and also the most used method is Lajin in the reclining position, i.e. stretching on a specially made Lajin bench with one leg stretched up and the other hanging freely off the edge of the bench. This practice is a prevention of a condition called Jin So. It is a shortening and hardening of the ligaments in the body. Flexible tendons and ligaments contribute to good health. Once the ligaments become stiff and constricted, the body will exhibit one or more of the following symptoms: neck pain and stiffness in the lumbar region, inability to bend over, back pain and stiffness, leg pain and paralysis, inability to squat to the bottom, unequal leg length or walking with small steps, heel pain, stressed tendons in hip joints, inability to lift your hips up or to the sides, difficulty turning around, muscle shortening, inability to open or bend arms at elbows, pain, stiffness, swelling sensation, lack of flexibility in arms, legs, elbows, knees. In addition to the above, Jin Su also contributes to the following problems: reproductive disorders, such as painful periods, irregular menstruation, ovarian cysts, uterine tumor, or infertility in women, impotence, premature ejaculation, or decreased libido in men. Unexplained pain in internal organs, including stomach pain, abdominal pain, intestinal pain, etc. Cold hands and feet, feeling of pain, stiffness or swelling in the hands and feet. The brief description of Lajin in this book will not be enough to answer all your questions. Please take the time to read Master Shao's book and follow my YouTube channel, Cured by Gibbon, and ask your questions there. What do I think about the attitude to solving the PE problem? The PE problem needs an objective look. And if we think very hard, we will realize that the objective way of thinking actually leads us to positive thoughts. I'll tell you why. Take my average YouTube subscriber as an example. He is 28 years old and has suffered from premature ejaculation his entire life. One reason he thinks he can't cure himself is that he hasn't had success with anything he's tried that hasn't worked. For some people, this is enough to decide that there is no solution to the problem. There are even people who trample on their intellect by trusting statistics as if they were a fait accompli. For example, 30% of men suffer from PE, and the man concludes that he was just born under the umbrella of that 30%, as if that can't be changed. The above is a typical example of negativity. A man can also get a negative attitude from the premature ejaculation forums. This is the largest forum for discussion of this issue at this time. Lots of sharing in a sad tone of personal dramas past rapid coming. They give a sense of helplessness. But just because most people don't have success doesn't mean it is impossible to occur. As someone who has been through this, I understand that this is no different than the problems of overweight people. Most of them never lose weight, but we all know it's possible, right? Just as most poor people never become rich, most premature ejaculation sufferers never manage to cure themselves. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. All it takes is one fit person who used to be fat to prove otherwise. It only takes one homeless guy getting rich and one with premature ejaculation to cure to prove it's possible. We can heal because our bodies have all the mechanisms necessary for healing to take place. That most fail should never be your motivation. What should motivate you is that everyone's organs are the same and one should not be 10,000 times more capable than another. Agreeing that one is just done in seconds and another is done in an hour because that's just nature is like agreeing that one needs 2 minutes of sleep a day and another needs 23 hours. God, destiny, the path we don't know if we know. I am not sure if we forge our own destiny. The dimension in which we find ourselves is woven by a superintelligent mind. As part of this dimension, we are also made up of this supreme intelligence. While we may sense ourselves as a separate part of the world around us and have a chronological list of memories of how we interact with our environment, we are actually one of all the component parts of the information and network of the universe, and the way we understand the world is simply our prism. Since we only live 80 to 90 years, and the universe is eternal, we have a limited store of information. Things that we think have occurred because of the use of our will may have simply occurred by the plan of the universe. We may simply be conduits of information along which our predestined life flows. That I have discovered Paidalajin and it has cured me of premature ejaculation and my other ailments may simply be my path. Come to think of it, Purely intuitively, I have always sought her out as if I knew exactly what I was going to find. I am the perfect conduit for information about Paidalajin to pass through. I have experience of practicing yoga. The simpler a thing is, the more I like it. I like strange things. I always look for the problem within myself. I have always liked the idea of healing crises. I am not vain and Shah does not bother me. I have always liked to reach some limits of pain. The ancient attracts me very strongly. I am not influenced by the conventional. By this I mean that a person's life can go on in so many different ways that there is no room at all for Paidalajin. That only 1 to 2 million people in the world practice PL does not mean that the teaching is weak, but that at this stage so many people have been able to open their hearts and give of their time to this practice. And could I not have found out about Paidalajin at all? Would I have found another treatment? What if I had stopped after my first 2 week place practices in which I had no effect? Had I ever tried something that would have helped but I didn't try hard enough? The purpose of these questions is not to confuse you, but to reassure you if Paidalajin doesn't help. You may be another person who has your own path, different from mine. Whether it will be the path of science, herbalism, yoga, homeopathy, food or any other, I have no way of knowing. The gold may be in front of one's eyes, but one may not notice it or decide it is false. I wish you to find your gold. Even if it's not Paidalajin, the universe is full of boon treatments, probably lurking from somewhere waiting for you to notice and try it out. What is the wrong way to tackle the problem? In my opinion, there are 2 types of solving the problem of premature ejaculation, real and by documents. What do I mean? The real coping is for the man to reach a level where he stops experiencing premature ejaculation, without lowering the state of health, but the opposite. The pleasure of sex also increases. In the long run it does no harm. Documents is when a man finds a way to increase the amount of time he endures during sex, no matter if it comes at the expense of worsening health, no matter if it will have a bad effect in the long run, no matter if the pleasure of sex is increased, but the increase in duration be an undeniable fact. Deciding, on the papers, I also call the wrong way. A typical example of the wrong path is treatment with serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Don't get me wrong, they work and I think they are a good thing. I too have used them for several years and thank goodness there are no lasting effects on my body. Thanks to them I have experienced a few times what it's like to endure a little more. But that wasn't me, that was some guy on antidepressants. The most important thing is principles and priorities. Years later, I realized that the most important factor that helped me heal was my clear view of priorities. To cure premature ejaculation was my most important priority. I had the clear view that I could live my life peacefully as a poor working class man, but I didn't want to live my life as ending quickly. I preferred the problems of the poor and the unauthoritative to those of the prematurely ejaculating. I was willing to pay that price if necessary. Nothing scared me more than reliving the shame of sexual weakness over and over again. I understood from hearsay that an acquaintance was very good with women. He was a poor boy and his parents were people who were not at all ambitious or polite or well-mannered, but to me he was a real rich man because he made women happy in bed. He was really proving himself as a man, where you could tell what kind of man you were the most. That was the kind of man I wanted to be too. A real man. I didn't give $5 that I wasn't going to stretch for big salaries and new cars. For me, the truly worthwhile goal was to find the love of my life and, with a clear conscience and dignity, stand by her side as the man who satisfies her. To me, attracting women with material wealth without being able to satisfy them sexually seemed like the highest form of suffering. What misery! Good sex doesn't make you happy on its own. Decide what is truly important to you in life. When I was still suffering from premature ejaculation, I thought all my relationship problems were due but coming quickly. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't satisfy my partner that in the event of a problem between us, I always thought sex was the problem. I thought that if I could satisfy her, she wouldn't get mad at me for things I found petty. Moreover, when I felt unhappy again, I blamed premature ejaculation. In my opinion, it was at the root of all the unhappiness in my life. Years later, when I discovered Paidalajin and permanently cured myself of premature ejaculation, I continued to have problems in my relationships. There isn't even a significant difference in how harmonious a relationship of mine was before and after I healed. At first, I was euphoric about being able to have normal sex, but after a while, I started to accept them as normal. Good sex was now accepted as normal for our relationship. Man is so wired that he starts accepting everything as normal after a period of time. The battle with the disease was long and painful. I threw myself into the fight 100%, depriving myself of many things to win. And in the end, after I achieved my goal, I realized that this was not the path to happiness. It was just satisfying a complex. Before, to feel happier, I meditated. But after the amazing results in sex started coming with the practice of Paidalajin, I gradually reduced meditation to have more time for stretching and clapping. My health improved more and more, and the euphoria of the treatment was great. Over the years, however, as in love, the euphoria diminished. Today I still practice Paidalajin daily to maintain my health and not feel the shame of ending it quickly again, but to feel truly happy, I meditate again. Remember that one will always have problems. It may be with sex, money, or relatives, but one thing is certain: there will always be problems. We will never solve all. Wandering in fixing the problems, we may lose a lot. Remember to make some effort just to be happy. My way is Kundalini Yoga meditation, your way may be another. Thank you so much for listening to my short audiobook on the holistic healing of premature ejaculation. You now know many things that have helped me and many things that have failed to help me. Use this knowledge for yourself as well. This was my story, intended to inspire you too to find a cure for this insidious problem. You can use my experience to help yourself. Discuss this book with me at Fiverr.com. My YouTube channel Cured by Gibbon has a lot of information about Paidalajin and ready-made yoga programs to help male sexuality. Here are some easy ways to support me. Subscribe to my channel. Leave a donation. Buy some of my courses on Fiverr.com. Leave a thank you comment below one of my videos. Thank you.